It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Tuesday, October 10th, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that has got some NHL season predictions for everyone.
Yeah, I always never thrilled about that.
Well, you got to go out on a limb sometime, and it might as well be today. Let's get the show going.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. You can find me on the app formerly known as Twitter at rmiriam. I'm here as always with Russ Cohen, who's on all your favorite social media apps at Sportsology. And as a show, we are at Locked On Flyers on Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads. We're pretty much everywhere. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. You can subscribe or follow us for free over on YouTube or on the SiriusXM app. Anywhere you subscribe to podcasts, download our latest episode as soon as it's available here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Russ, a lot to get to on today's show. And while the Flyers do not begin their season until Thursday, we do have some actual NHL games starting tonight. So we're going to get our season predictions in, talk a little bit about the Flyers roster spot and the magic that the Tampa Bay Lightning managed to do every single year, it seems. And we have our Phantoms Tuesday report as well from their preseason. I think that there's been some questions as to how the Flyers were going to get to the 23-man roster. With scheduling, we have to record this before the final information comes down with the roster locking into place. But it seems like based on Cap Friendly, they've assigned Sam Ersson to the Phantoms. So that'll artificially create that 23-man roster. And then they can delay the other decision if they're going to make one until Thursday's roster has to be set.
Right. And they can call up Ersson, send down Sandstrom. Presumably the teams that need a goalie will have a goalie and he'll pass through. That's their hope.
Yeah, it seems like that's the best strategy because I think they do need this extra time in order to figure out what they're going to do if they really want to hold on to 8 defensemen here. I think that is the linchpin question that's like going to help determine everything else.
If you ask John, he'll want to hold on to him.
Right, but at a certain point, like you have to like make a cut somewhere because there are rules in the NHL.
True.
I think that, it'll be interesting to see what happens with Tampa. I think they are also, as part of the league-wide maneuvers that are happening, a big determining factor. They still don't have a high-level goaltender with NHL experience at this point, and everybody, like we said, a bit holding back their extra goaltenders because they don't want them or Colorado to take him. And meanwhile, the Tampa Bay Lightning have done their cap magic again, and they managed to sign Austin Watson and get within $2 of the cap. That's before the season starts, and they can LTIR Vasilevsky, which of course will open up some cap space for them. But
and John Cusack wants that $2.
Yes, he does. Yeah. Maybe that's a reference that only us older folk will get.
Maybe,
but
if not, look it up.
Yeah, better off dead. Anyway, I think that the Leafs putting Martin Jones on waivers, sending him down, I think will be a tempting carrot for either of those teams.
Yeah, the only bugaboo with that one is they have to give him like $100,000 bonus. Somebody was reporting that. So besides the $875, they got to give that. And so I don't know, like that's where the craziness of the cap comes in because I don't know what their bonus structure is like. I don't know, so I don't know how that's going to affect it. I really don't.
Right, and at least with the Flyers, they're in a pretty solid cap position. I think that, it could be better, but I think that for now, they're in a good spot. Cap Friendly is projecting that they'll have about 3.5 million in cap space, which is a little bit of wiggle room, so that's good. But any like kind of transactions where guys will come up, if it's a Wade Allison or a Ronnie Attard or whoever, they'll have plenty of space to call them
Right.
up, which I think is really what they needed, and so here we are, and I think that's I feel pretty good about that.
Yeah, I mean it's better than last year. It's still not a
Mhm.
ton of space, but it's more than last year. So there's that.
Yeah, I think that, given everything and the fact that they've had to eat a bunch of dead cap space this year, especially with, the Hayes contract and all of that, I think that this is as good a position as they were going to be in cap wise heading into the season. And so I'll give them a little bit of credit for that.
Sure, but there might be a point this year where they have to call up Cal Peterson, and then that causes a problem.
Well, that's the question, right?
So I mean that's why I can't give them credit yet because
Yeah,
there's
well,
that
we are
potential.
going to knock on a giant piece of wood and say that a reason to call up Peterson isn't because one of the goaltenders needs to be put on LTIR.
Right.
And so that way the cap will balance itself out in that circumstance, but I do not want that circumstance to
No,
happen.
no, I get it. I do.
So that's kind of where we're at roster wise. While we wait these couple of days to find out exactly what the team and the starting team is going to look like. I was actually looking at the beginning of last season to the beginning of this season, and there's probably going to be 9 differences on the starting roster between last season and this season. That's pretty big.
It's a lot. It's a lot. I wish it was a higher number of prospects that were the change. I think I would feel better about it, like a San Jose and teams like that have a lot of prospects on them. Ottawa did at one point, but this is their plan. So
Yeah, and I think that comparing the season-ending rosters between last year and this year is going to be a huge telltale sign about, is this rebuild heading in the
right,
right direction? So, gonna take the opening roster with a little more of a chunk of salt, and
okay.
then really focus on what the roster is looking like and who's playing well and all that at the end of the season. But, so that is a good transition into our season predictions here. Now, for the Flyers, I would say most prognosticators out there are putting the Flyers in last place in the Metro. Do you think that holds?
I do think that holds. I think all the other teams have done measures to be better. And like, if you want to say, hey, Washington's not that good, I'll be like, yeah, I agree, but they still have Ovechkin. If you want to
Yep.
say that Columbus isn't that great, I'd be like, you're probably right. But still, they have, Goudreau and Fantilli and young guys that can still raise the boat there because they're high level guys. So where do they fit? Who are they beating out? I just don't see it.
Yeah, I think the only possibility for the Flyers to not finish in the basement in the Metro is if one of these other teams just has a major bottoming out. And the only 2 teams that I could see that happening potentially is Washington if, let's say, Tom Wilson gets hurt again or
Right.
something. And then maybe it's like not even Columbus, maybe the Islanders. I
Yeah,
think
they would
those
have
are
to
the
have Sorokin injured, but they still have Varlamov.
yeah.
Like,
I
it's
know.
hard.
So
It's hard.
that's the thing. It's like, but if they ultimately really can't score any goals and they keep losing 1-0 or
Mhm.
2-1 games or something,
Okay.
that's the only way I see the Flyers eking out a position above that. But I do see them scoring more this year than they did last year, regardless.
Yeah, I think they're going to score more and give up more. I agree.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where we're at right now. But we did in a mailbag talk about the top goal scorer, I believe, and that we both settled on Travis Konechny
Yeah.
for that one. Do you have a different answer for a top point getter for the
Nope.
Flyers?
Same answer. Even if he gets traded, he could still be the same answer.
Don't want to set that
Well,
expectation
no,
too
because
soon, but
I know, but it's
no, I
like,
know what you mean. I
yeah,
know what
he
you
could be
mean.
having just an all-star year, and even if he gets traded, those numbers still hold because they're, well above a point a game. He's capable.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm just not sure there's anybody else like who's going to get a ton of assists, let's
Right.
say,
That's
and
that's the issue.
surpass that. Yeah, I think that's kind of what we're looking at right now. Is there anybody that you think could be a surprise standout on the team?
Yeah, I think Urson, if for some reason Carter Hart gets injured, he has to play more, does better than everybody thinks. Yeah, there's a potential there.
Yeah, I hesitate to say that Morgan Frost would be a surprise standout. He would
Yeah,
just be
that's
a
why I didn't put him
standout.
in. Yeah.
But, I think that maybe Ryan Poehling is gonna be that guy
That's good.
this
Yeah.
year. That, he's, I think, surprised a few people so far, in training
Mhm.
camp and in the preseason, and maybe, this will translate into the regular season, and he'll play well and move up in the lineup and surprise us all. So that
Yeah.
would be my choice.
Okay. It's a good choice.
All right. Well, we are going to get to all of the other teams around the NHL with our who's going to make the playoff predictions coming up next. Buying tickets to your favorite event shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you with killer deals on last minute tickets and their best price guarantee. You can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting excited for all the fun you'll have. My favorite part of the Game Time app is that it's great for getting notified about last minute tickets and flash deals. Plus, you can get those all important view from your seats. The Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Also, tickets are sent directly to you on your phone, so you don't have to dig through your email. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem with the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right. On tomorrow's show, we'll be discussing the latest Flyers news heading into opening night on Thursday. Plus, we'll be answering your mailbag questions. So get them in. Email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com. You can send us a DM on the app formerly known as Twitter or comment over on YouTube. Russ, let's dig into this right away. The Eastern Conference. Now, we talked about the Flyers. Unfortunately, this year one of the rebuild. So we'll be at the bottom of the division. But who are the teams that will be at the top of the division?
I've got the Devils, the Hurricanes, and the Rangers.
I do as well. I kind of wavered between the Rangers and the Pens for this spot, but ultimately just partially because of goaltending and partially because I just feel like it's their time in this spot and how they've uh, grown over the last couple of years. I think they're in a good spot. So those are my top three as well. In the Atlantic, I have Toronto, the Bruins, and the Panthers.
I've got Toronto, the Sabres, and the Bruins. I think the Atlantic's going to be a little down this year. And I think as a result, like the Bruins aren't getting 135 points, right? They're just not.
No. And in fact, I don't think they'll win the division.
No. And so we all pretty much think the Leafs will win the division. And the Sabres had 91 points last year. And if Devin Levi is just an average NHL goalie this year, maybe a little above average in his rookie year, then they could do this.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I have the Sabres on my list in a different spot,
Yeah.
but it's not even the wild card spot for me. I have the Lightning and the Pens as your two wild card teams from the East.
Yeah, the wild cards, I've got the Pens and the Panthers. I think the Panthers will eke it out. I think Bob will get like one more decent year out of them. Right now, Spencer
Right.
Knight's down in the minors, so he's going to play a lot. Bob's the only guy. So usually when Bob's the only guy, he gets close to the playoffs. And I think it'll be the same this year, even though they're missing a little bit.
Yeah, I think so too. And that's why I have them in third place in the Atlantic right now. But you mentioned the Sabres. They're my potential spoiler for the East. I do believe, for all the reasons you talked about, that they have a really good shot at making the playoffs and knocking one of these other like perennial playoff teams out of it that just doesn't have it this year. My guess, honestly, if they're gonna knock out anyone, it's going to be the Panthers or the Lightning here. I think
I
that
think the Lightning. I don't think they're going to make it.
I feel like they have enough scoring that could keep them in the conversation. But again, I do think that the Sabres have a really good shot this year.
Yeah, I think with the Lightning, scoring's great, but it could wear on you if the goaltending's just not there. I think the Islanders are the other team, the potential spoiler, because if Sorokin's the best goalie in the league and he's winning these
Sure.
1-0, 2-0, 2-1 games, then nobody's going to be shocked if all of a sudden the Islanders sneak their way in there. And so I think, that's their best bet.
Yeah, I think that's the only way that's gonna happen because I
Yeah.
just don't see them having a fast enough or dynamic enough of an offensive threat, um, down up and down the lineup. I think they have a few key guys, but they just don't have the depth in order to score on a regular basis.
No, I agree with that.
So, turning our attention to the Western Conference here, starting with the Central Division. This was probably the toughest one for me in terms of picking teams out because I feel like the Central, much like it represents the middle of the country, is the mushy middle of
Yeah.
the NHL right now. And so my top 3 teams right now are the Avalanche, the Stars, and the Wild, but I gotta say, I do not feel confident in those picks.
Yeah, I've got the Stars, the Avs, and yeah, I do have the Wild as well. I do. But I have the Stars
So
in first. That was the difference.
yeah, so right now I have the Avalanche in first place.
Yeah.
But again, I do think there's a lot of
Wait, sorry.
opportunity.
I made a mistake. Kill that. I couldn't read my own writing. I have mine's a little different. I have the Stars winning, then the Avs and the Winnipeg Jets
Oh,
coming in
Winnipeg.
third. And I think Winnipeg's kind of like this is an all-in year because I think Hellebuck's going to walk after this year, and Scheifele, I don't know what's going to happen
Yep.
either. So I think they might band together and have one more good year.
The old one more good year theory with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that there's been a lot of conversation about, people not wanting to play in Winnipeg. I mean, Hellebuck is part of that conversation.
Yeah.
And so, maybe this is like a chip on the shoulder kind of year for that team. I just wasn't sure it was enough to get them through based on all the changes that had been made on this roster, but we'll see if they're part of our wild card discussion as well. But first, we are going to talk about the Pacific Division, where I do have Vegas winning that division with the Oilers in second, followed by the Kings.
I've got Oilers, Vegas, and the Kings. I think this is a big year for the Oilers. Skinner showed something last year. I liked him years ago, and then I kind of wanted to see more out of him the last couple of years. He showed it last year, so now I'm buying in.
Yeah, I think just because the Oilers seem to always find a way to mess things up slightly, I think they're too good a team to mess it up completely, but they are the Oilers and they figure out ways to lose sometimes. So that's why I put them in the second place spot here. But I do not deny that they are an excellent team and they should win the division. I just don't know if they'll figure out a way to actually make it happen.
I'm not going to argue in their favor.
Yeah.
I just said they would. That's it. That's as much argument as you get.
All right. The wild cards for the West. I am picking, I did think about Winnipeg a lot, but I have chosen the Nashville Predators and the Seattle Kraken for those wild card spots.
So mine are completely different. I'm going with the Blues and the Flames. I think this is a bounce back year for Binnington. and I think they've made a few changes that will help them. And then with the Flames, I kind of looked at their lineup and what they have compared to the rest, to the field, to the Predators. Like the Predators, still their offense is not impressive at all, and so they're going to struggle. Like Saros has to be Vezina caliber again, or they do nothing. And I don't know if he has that in him every year. So that's the problem with them. And the Kraken, I'm going with the Dave Hackstall fall off. And after making the playoffs, guys over, they played over their heads. And now it's kind of like, yeah, all of a sudden they've slipped back. Because if you look at their lineup, they're a bubble team.
No, absolutely. That's why I have them in the last wild card spot here. I think just for me, picking the Preds, I think that every year there's one team that plays so far above their station in the NHL, and I feel like it's the Preds' year to do that. And I think they're the team that's going to way outperform what they should on paper. I think the energy is there, and I do think Saros is a goaltender that can have a repeat stellar year. I think if anybody can do it, he can do it. And so that's why I'm putting my money on the Preds here. I do have the Calgary Flames as my spoiler team though, because I do agree. I think that last year was kind of a blip, that something unknown went wrong for them. Well, it's not unknown, but you know what I mean? It's just like a blip on the radar for them. And I feel like they will absolutely have a better season this year than they did last year, and could take one of those wild card spots away, or, to your point, maybe finish in third in the Pacific.
Yeah, I'll put the Predators as the spoiler. Maybe, this Trotz team grinds it out.
All right. Well, there's your predictions for who's going to make the playoffs this NHL season. We'll have to come back to this, put a pin in it when the season comes to a close, and see how right or wrong we are. In the meantime, it's Phantoms Tuesday, so we are going to talk about their preseason and head into their regular season coming up next.
Snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
Russ, it's another Phantoms Tuesday here, and the Phantoms had their 3 preseason games this past week. Now, I will say the first couple were more geared towards sussing out the Reading Royals and the tryouts, and who was going to get called, or who was going to get sent down, and who was going to stay with the Phantoms, and a much larger group of the Flyers prospects who got sent down didn't get sent down till later. And so, they weren't added to the lineup for these games until later in the preseason. So, and obviously we know the scores don't count in the preseason. It just matters, who was playing well and effort and all of those things. So the Phantoms were 2-1 over their 3 games. They lost the first one 4-0, the second one 5-2, but then won the last one 4-3 against Hershey. Their first 2 were against Wilkes-Barre Scranton, and their third one was against Hershey, which is a perennial, real good team, one of the best in the AHL. And I think looking at the effort and who was scoring in that game is really key in terms of how the Phantoms were progressing in their preseason. Because if you look at the goal scorers in game 2, it was Adam Karashik and Alex Kyle for the Phantoms. I will say Jack St. Ivany scored for Wilkes-Barre Scranton, which, it's always a good time. Always a good time there. But I just want to focus on that third game, because not only did the Phantoms come from behind, a 3-goal come from behind in the third period. Tanner Lazinski, after being set down, probably disappointed, gets the overtime winner. So I'm sure that felt really good for him, right?
Yeah, no, that's very good.
And then the regulation goals in that game came from Adam Ginning, Alexis Gendron, and Evan Pole. So, 2 of the 3 goal scorers there were key Flyers prospects. Cal Peterson was pretty solid in net, 20 saves on 23 shots. But again, if you also look at who was involved in the scoring there, Tanner Lazinski had an assist on one of the goals earlier. Adam Ginning, like I said, scored, but he also had an assist. Elliot Denoye had an assist. Mete and Matt Brown were the assists on the overtime winner. So it feels like all of the right people are getting involved in these scoring plays.
Not all of them, Rachel. No Wade Allison.
Well, he wasn't there yet. He didn't
Wasn't
get set
there yet?
down.
I thought he was there for the third one. Okay.
No.
Oh, okay. Then that's fine.
Yeah. So I think that.
Although technically, why isn't he there? Like,
that's a whole other thing.
You gotta. Well, I'm asking you what you're thinking on that.
I think that this is preseason AHL hockey, and you have to.
It's like if my feeling would be, Wade, you got close here. We need you to get you into as many games as you can on left wing. Let's get you in there. And it just seems like there was no urgency to do it. I would have thought he'd have played in that third game.
Yeah. So I think that it's a good solid start to the preseason for the Phantoms here. They do have a couple of games this weekend for the regular season, and the Cleveland Monsters, it's mirroring the Flyer schedule, right? So
yeah.
Will be visiting Lehigh Valley for their opening game on Saturday. Of course, that is the affiliate of the Columbus Blue Jackets, the Flyers' first opponent. And then the Belleville Senators will be visiting Lehigh Valley on Sunday when the Flyers are playing the Senators on Saturday. So a little mirror
it's good for their
action going
scouts
on there.
and their GMs and such, because they can go catch the games, and they will.
Yep, I think that's. I think there was a method to the madness with the schedule planning there.
Yep.
Along those lines, because you don't normally see like 2 different teams on back-to-back as the only games in a weekend in the AHL. So I think that's absolutely what's happening there. But it should be a good weekend in Allentown, and you can check out some Flyers prospects if you make it to a game.
Yeah, it should be fun. Check it out.
I want to just wrap things up with a quick Flyers fun thing. The Gritty 5K is on Saturday, October 21st, coming up real quick, and I will be there. So if anybody else is planning on walking in that, I'll be there with my mom. So I haven't decided what I'm wearing yet, but I will let people know so you can come find me in the crowd. I will be walking, not running. Because I got the bad knees, as you do.
I wouldn't be running either. No way.
Yeah. So my mom and I will be walking the 5K. So hopefully I can get a chance to meet some of y'all in person if you happen to be there. So definitely let me know as well. That will do it for today's show. Of course, we'll be back again tomorrow. We are going to dig more into the Flyers' upcoming season and how we're feeling heading into it. Plus, we'll have that mailbag like I talked about. So get those questions in. I am Rachel. I'm on Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology, SPORTSOLOGY.
Have a great day, everyone.